Good morning. Welcome to Inquisition Update. My name's Tom Press, and I'll be your host for the next hour. If you're a regular listener, you know we're reading and discussing the book Codeword Barbelon by P.D. Stewart, the second book of the two-book series. We're currently in the chapter entitled, What? Popery and Democracy Allied? We've shown that the Roman Catholic Church expresses itself and exposes its rank hypocrisy when it professes to champion the causes of human rights and democracy. Popery is despotism. The Pope is the self-described King of Kings and Lord of Lords. He's not democratic. He's an authoritarian. He's a dictator. He takes no order from anyone. He may question every man, but no man may question him. And his church is, quote-unquote, infallible, and it never changes. Those traits are not consistent with democracy. And it's hopeful that through the reading and discussion of this book that people understand the hypocrisy, the rank hypocrisy of the papacy when it stands before the cameras of the world and professes to be the defender of democracy and human rights. Now, at the end of the broadcast yesterday, we read a quote from Thomas Watson, who this author relies on heavily for quotes and information. This is a powerful quote. If you're following along, I'm reading about the quote in the middle of the page on page 433. This is an important quote. Thomas Watson says, Roman Catholicism threatens the very foundations of our institutions, strikes at the very root of our liberties. A good Roman Catholic is bound to believe that the supreme sovereignty is inherent in the Holy Papa at Rome, and that the Papa has the power to depose kings and rule nations. That has always been the Roman Catholic doctrine, and the Church boasts that it never changes. It can wait, it can dissemble, it can wheedle and hoodwink and deceive, but it does not, in spirit, change. Its purpose is ever the same, and wherever it has been master, it has been a blight. Bishop Gilmore of Cleveland, Ohio, in a Lenten letter of 1883 wrote, quote, We are Catholics first and citizens next. God is above man and the Church above the state, unquote. There, reader, the Orthodox Roman Catholic doctrine. Quote, It is at deadly war with Republican institutions, says Watson. What the Roman Catholics are aiming to do is to give us presidents and cabinets that will look to Rome for orders. When we naturalize a foreigner, we compel him to take an oath renouncing allegiance to any and all foreign powers. But the Roman Catholics of America are bound to obey as their supreme infallible master an old Italian priest sitting enthroned among the slippery but powerful politicians of the Vatican. The profession of faith sanctioned by the Catholic Council, which is held in Baltimore in 1884, contains the following oath of allegiance. Quote, I pledge and swear true obedience to the Roman Pontiff, Vicar of Jesus Christ, unquote. Thus it is obvious, reader, that in case there should be a conflict between the law of our land and the laws of the Roman Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic must obey his church. Suppose, asked Watson, if Baptist and Methodist clergymen were required to take a solemn oath to persecute Roman Catholics, there would be a howl, wouldn't there? Yet nobody says a word when papal bishops are sworn in as persecutors of Protestants. Princes of the Roman hierarchy very frankly declare that they only allow liberty of conscience where they are in the minority. But when they are in the majority, they refuse it and they persecute, unquote. You may ask, dear reader, how can we separate the characters thus combined in the Catholic system? How can we repel the politics of Catholic without infringing upon his or her religious right? I answer as Morse did. Quote, this is a difficulty for papists, the die-hard Catholics, not for Protestants to solve. If papists had made their religion and despotism identical, that is not our fault. Our religion, the Protestant religion, and liberty are identical, and liberty keeps no terms with despotism. Shall political heresy be shielded from all attack because it is connected with a religious creed? Unquote. No, never, never, said Morse. Quote, let the papists, those zealous Catholics, separate their religious faith from their political faith if they can, and the former shall suffer no political attack from us. Unquote. But no, the papist cries, quote, I cannot separate them. My religion is so blended with the political system that they must be tolerated and refused altogether. My whole system is one and indivisible, unchangeable, infallible, conscientious. I cannot separate them, unquote. What, asked Morse, are we to do in such a case? Are we to surrender our civil and religious liberty to such presumptuous folly? No, our liberties must be preserved. And we say, and say firmly, to the popish bishops and priests among us, give us your declaration of your relation to our civil government. Renounce your foreign allegiance, your allegiance to a foreign sovereign. Let us have your own avowal in an official manifesto that the democratic government under which you here live delights you best. Come out and declare your opinion on the liberty of the press, on liberty of conscience and of opinion, unquote. Americans, you must demand it. If the Roman Catholics cannot renounce their claim that the Pope and their church is above the Constitution and the laws of the land, let them not hold high office of state or rank in any municipality. Why, you say, this is harsh. Yes, I answer, but this is not of our creating. It is they who pledge allegiance to the laws and dogmas that undermine and destroy our liberties and freedoms. Thus, it is not ours, but their funeral. Let them see to it. I do not here advocate hatred, discrimination against, or harm to Roman Catholics. But it does not follow that we should persecute another merely because we think him in a dangerous error. No, the times of persecution, I hope, are forever past. But alas, for non-Catholics, we shall see that it has not. This author is predicting open religious persecution. And that's exactly what's going to happen in this country. If we don't heed the warnings of this book, if we don't heed the warnings of P.D. Stewart and so many of the other authors that we read here on Inquisition Update, open, and I add the words government-sponsored religious persecution is going to be the law of this land. And Waco is going to be just one of many examples of open government hostility, open persecution, religious persecution of those who will not kowtow to the Vatican Jesuit-led New World Order. Now, continuing, he says, Americans no more nurture this foreign weed, speaking of Roman Catholicism. For it harbors a serpent which has already commenced its coil about our limbs, and already the lethargy of its poison is creeping over you. Americans, you must awake now. Awake, or you are lost. Your own patriot, Professor Morse, warned you many years ago, quote, your liberties are in danger. The Philistines are upon you. And John Adams, the second U.S. president, regarded as one of the most influential founding fathers, asked the papal admirer Thomas Jefferson, quote, can a free government possibly exist with the Roman Catholic religion? In light of all these facts, what is your duty, patriotic American, to this perilous condition to which your civil liberty is placed? If you are a true patriot, you will reflect on the threat of loss of your liberties by the aims and the well-ripened schemes of popery, and you will take measures to quarantine Rome's foreign enemies on your soil. Why are you not more energetic in your efforts to save yourselves and your country? Do not any longer deceive yourselves. The ratio of increase of popery in your country is the exact ratio of decrease of your civil liberty. The dominance of popery in the United States is the certain destruction of your free institutions. As Thomas Watson said, the Roman Catholic hierarchy is the deadliest menace to American liberties. So away with all this Catholic talk about democracy. Who's ever heard of popish democracy? As Morse said, quote, popery is the antithesis of democracy. Anyone who has ever read Roman Catholic dogmas as found in their current books and how these have been acted upon in recent times knows that she is an old serpent. A serpent, to use the words of one author, that is alive at both ends and deadly in the middle. The Roman Catholic Church's talk of human rights and freedom is not only pathetic, it is a charade, a lie. It doesn't represent anything of substance. But as I said in the closing chapter of Book 1, no lie is too base for Rome in her goal to regain world domination. And America is her final hurdle. But the Romish Antichrist, being the experienced harlot that she is, knows too well that America is not to be taken by storm, but must be wooed by flattering words and slow, gentle advances. And that's just exactly how she's taken over this country. And few are even aware of it, and those few who are aware of it are mute, scared to death to talk about it. Well, not here at Inquisition Update. Chapter 63 of this book is entitled Romanizing America, Takeover by Illegal Emigration. Continuing on the thesis that Rome intends to make America Catholic, the author says, emigration from Catholic countries is the other the other means by which Rome seeks to make America Catholic. I say emigration and not immigration, for the process is often initiated by Jesuits and Roman Catholic priests from the home country of the immigrants. And I mean mass emigration. Former Catholic priest Charles Chinnicky, in his book 50 Years in the Church of Rome, tells us what Rome's plans are in this regard, as was revealed to him by his superiors at a secret meeting in 1865. Listen to what this former Roman Catholic priest had to say about that meeting. Quote, we are also determined to take possession of the United States, but we must proceed with the utmost secrecy. Silently and patiently, we must mass our Roman Catholics in the great cities of the United States, remembering that the vote of a poor journeyman, though he be covered with rags, has just as much weight in the scale of power as the millionaire Astor, and that if we have 2 votes to his 1, he will become as powerless as an oyster. Let us multiply our votes. Let us call our poor but faithful Catholics from every corner of the world and gather them into the very hearts of the cities of Washington, New York, Boston, Chicago, Buffalo, Albany, Troy, and Cincinnati. Excuse me. Continuing with the quote, he says, under the shadows of those great cities, the Americans consider themselves a giant, unconquerable race. They look upon the poor Irish Roman Catholics with extreme contempt, as only fit to dig their canals, sweep their streets, and work in their kitchens. Let no one awake those sleeping lions today. Let us pray God that they continue to sleep a few years longer, waking only to find their votes outnumbered. We will turn them forever out of every position of honor, power, and profit. What will those so-called giants think when not a single senator or member of Congress will be chosen unless he has submitted to our Holy Father, the Pope? We will not only elect the president, but fill and command the armies, man the navies, and hold the keys of the public treasury, unquote. Ladies and gentlemen, virtually every tenet of this Roman Catholic doctrine to take over America has been completely fulfilled. Charles Jenneke knew exactly what he was talking about. If you want to read this quote for yourself, get a copy of 50 Years in the Church of Rome by Charles Jenneke, and you'll find these quotes on page 281, 282, 668, and 670. If the reader is inclined to think that these were the sentiments of a bygone era, then consider this statement of Cardinal Theodore McCarrick of Washington, D.C. at a groundbreaking first bicentennial migration conference between the United States and Mexican Catholic workers on June 24, 2005. McCarrick said, quote, "The Catholic Church in the United States is very, very Hispanic, and what a blessing that is. They," speaking of Hispanic immigrants, "come with the values that are so needed in the United States today. This is a special moment in the history of the Catholic Church and the history of migration," unquote. Now, read this statement from the intent of Archbishop Jose Gomez of San Antonio in an interview with Zenit Press, speaking of the objective of mass Catholic immigration. Quote, "The values they bring is making North American culture return to its Christian roots. The values of the immigrants are very basic, reflecting a profound Catholicism," unquote. To this must be appended the words of Cardinal Norbero Rivera, Mexico's Archbishop, quote, "In the north, the immigrants, Mexicans, and those who pass through Mexico are bearing the faith to the north of our continent. Only 5 years ago, the Catholic Church was in the minority in the United States. It is now the majority," unquote. That from El Universo, July 28, 2002. This statement is perhaps a little premature, but the rate at which the Hispanic immigration is taking place in America, one can understand the Cardinal's over-enthusiasm in stating his case. According to the best but conservative estimates, there are at least 20 million of such illegal aliens in the United States of America, and I will just let you know that those emigrating from Mexico and coming through Mexico to immigrate to the United States are at least 98% Roman Catholic. And these are the values, Roman Catholic values, that these Roman Catholic priests cherish, and they say that are so desperately needed in Protestant America. Catholic values. And what are Catholic values? That the Pope is the divine right ruler of the world, the representative of Christ on earth. And to be truly Christian, you must be Catholic. And the Roman Catholic Church has a divine right to conquer the world for the Pope. Those are the tenets of these Roman Catholic immigrants, their beliefs, and they're instilled from their childhood in the Roman Catholic Church. Now, continuing with the book, it says, in a response to several immigration and border control reform measures proposed by the Congress of the United States of America, a Catholic organization calling itself Justice for Immigrants Campaign, founded by the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, joined together with other Catholics in a national blitzkrieg of education, media, and political propaganda to block the proposed legislation concerning the illegal invasion of the United States of America. Reader, did not Charles Chineke warn us of this? According to the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, 71% of the growth in the United States population nationwide since 1960 has come from Hispanics. Quote, more than 50% of all Catholics in the United States under age 25 are Hispanic Latino descent, unquote. Mexico is the second most populous Catholic nation in the world and has enough Catholics to fill every state in America. Under the encouragement and direction of these Roman Catholic bishops, the advocates of illegal Catholic immigration, led by Roman Catholic priests, have staged rallies, protests, and parades all across the United States. For example, on the 25th of March of 2006, over 500,000 people marched in the streets of Los Angeles, California, flying Mexican flags, chanting, "Viva Mexico!" Yes, Viva Mexico, not Viva USA. A few weeks later, on April 9th, another 500,000 marched in Dallas, Texas, waving again Mexican flags with Our Lady of Guadalupe emblazoned at the center. Then on May 1st of 2006, thousands of illegal Mexican immigrants under the direction of the Jesuit and the regular Roman Catholic priests staged a nationwide work stoppage and boycott of business and schools. NBC News reported that many of those immigrant marches and strikes were actually launched from local Roman Catholic parish churches. In Canada, similar illegal mass Catholic immigration is taking place. On July 15, 2009, there were a record 9,000 Mexicans claiming refugee status, and according to the Canadian government minister Stockwell Days, quote, over 90% are not valid, unquote. Why is the Roman Catholic Church aiding and abetting a Catholic population in the United States? Why is she amassing her quote-unquote faithful on the borders of North America? What goal does she have in mind? Charles Chineke, the former priest, revealed that the aim of Rome is to, quote, not only elect the president, but fill and command the armies, man the navies, and hold the keys to the public treasury. And that Rome seeks to overwhelm America by her numbers. You wonder why our government just seems to take a hands-off attitude to these Mexicans coming across the border? It's because they're making America Catholic. And that's what's going to happen in the United States if America doesn't wake up. Now, continuing with the book Codeword Barbelon by P.D. Stewart on this thesis of making America Catholic. We're talking now about Roman Catholic immigration to the United States, particularly through Mexico. The question is asked by this author, why is the Roman Catholic Church aiding and abetting a Catholic repopulation of the United States? Why is she amassing her quote-unquote faithful in the borders of North America? What goal does the Roman Catholic Church have in mind? Charles Chinnicky, the former Roman Catholic priest, reveals that the aim of Rome is to not only elect the president, but fill and command the armies, man the navies, and hold the keys to the public treasury, unquote. And that Rome seeks to overwhelm America by her numbers, by Roman Catholic numbers. Immigration, Roman Catholic immigration, papal-sponsored Roman Catholic immigration to the United States is not new. It has taken place periodically throughout our history. Rome has admittedly tried to Catholicize the United States by promoting immigration of Roman Catholics, particularly poor, persecuted Roman Catholics, to come to this country. And this new invasion from Mexico is just the same old, but we never remember from one onslaught to the next what Rome's strategy is in all this. And P.D. Stewart is waking us up to the reality. Now, he continues, he says, as I've said, most of these illegal immigrants are under the direction of their Roman Catholic priests and have for years been taught to think as their priest thinks and to do only what their priest commands. Many years ago, Tom Watson observed, quote, "Those human hordes do not imbibe Americanism, and they do not give a thought to our institutions. Their children are separated by their priests into the Pope's own parochial schools, where they learn the hatred of heretics and servility to the foreign potentate whom they are being trained to serve," unquote. And Professor Morse said the Jesuits are fully aware of the advantage they derive from this circumstance. They know that a body of men admitted to citizenship, unlearned in the true nature of American liberty, exercising the elective franchise, totally influenced by the ordinary methods of reasoning, but passively obedient only to the commands of their priests, unquote. This power gives the Romish priests, quote, "great consequence in the eyes of the leaders of political parties of America," unquote. In the words of the Quarterly Christian Spectator, quote, "While some are added to their numbers by conversion from the Protestant population, their chief accession is from immigration. In this way they are increased in numbers with unparalleled rapidity. The number of immigrants annually arriving in this country is estimated at 200,000, 3/4 of whom, at least, it is supposed, are Roman Catholics," unquote. And virtually every one of them is under the double bondage of spiritual and temporal slavery. In other words, their mindset from cradle to grave is a union of church and state, where the state is subservient to the Roman Catholic Church. The state does the bidding of the church. The church rules supreme over the state. And the state literally just becomes the financial supporter of the church, and it also becomes the inquisitor of the church. This is popery. This is historic popery. This is nothing new. Now, continuing with the book, it says, "These facts should be to Americans most alarming, as this statement from Samuel F.B. Morse, the famed inventor of the Morse code, shows, quote, "The subject of emigration is one of those which demands the immediate attention of the nation. It is a question which concerns all parties, and if the writer is not mistaken in his reading of the signs of the times, the country is waking to a sense of the alarming evil produced by our naturalization laws. Let us war among ourselves in party warfare with every lawful weapon that can be converted to our purpose. It is our birthright to have our own opinion and earnestly to contend for it. But let us court no foreign friends. Every American should feel his national blood mount at the very thought of foreign interference. While we welcome the intelligent and persecuted of all nations and give them an asylum and a share in our privileges, let us beware lest we admit to dangerous fellowship those who cannot and will not use our hospitality aright. That such may come and do come, there is no reason to doubt." Unquote. The following from the Catholic Zenit News Service shows that the fears of Professor Morse were no idle theory. Quote, "Representatives of the Holy See and of the Catholic Church in Mexico are opposing a United States bill on immigration, considering it a violation of human rights, which will include the legalization earned by illegal workers with their effort." Unquote. A violation of human rights? And how were these human rights obtained? By the illegal workers' efforts, they say. In other words, according to these bold-faced Roman Catholic priests, merely entering the United States and working illegally gives the Mexican alien human rights to stay in America. See how preposterous and audacious these Roman Catholic priests are? Waxing even bolder, on January 22, 2003, the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops with the Catholic Bishops of Mexico issued a document entitled "Strangers No Longer, Together on the Journey of Hope, a pastoral letter concerning migration." Unquote. This document contains many preposterous statements endorsing and expressly encouraging illegal immigration into the United States. Cardinal Roger Michael Mahoney has even instructed his priests to ignore future immigration laws. In 2006, the Los Angeles Times reported that Cardinal McCarrick, the Archbishop of Washington, D.C., had issued a similar directive to his priests. Quote, "In the most forceful comments to date, Mahoney said he would instruct his priests to defy legislation on immigration." Unquote. And in March of 2006, Father Michael Gutierrez, acting on the advice of his superior, Cardinal Roger M. Mahoney, barked at St. Anne Catholic Church in Santa Monica, California, that his church would not only welcome illegal immigrants, but would do so regardless of any laws Congress might pass. This is not our law. We follow God's law, the lawless, unpatriotic priest said. But Cardinal Mahoney and Father Gutierrez violated their own office by calling for their priests to defy United States immigration laws. What more can we expect from these mutinous, seditious priests? And I would call them, correctly, crusaders. These Roman Catholic priests are leading a Mexican Roman Catholic crusade to conquer once Protestant USA and to make America Catholic. And they're in the open about it, in open defiance of our immigration laws, and they've got a religious motive and a tactical political motive for what they're doing in supporting the continued immigration of Roman Catholics into this country. The author continues, he says, "These turbulent priests of Antichrist are openly undermining the laws of America and the authority of its government. Americans, what more proof do you want that the Roman Catholic priests and the bishops of Rome are all full of mischief, inciters of the people for the greater glory of their church? These priests do not care about your laws, your government, or your constitution. They are simply foot soldiers of the Romish army for the future sovereignty of their Roman Catholic pontiff, the Pope, in America." The Roman Catholic priesthood are a body, said Samuel Morse, of servile individuals imported from abroad, bound to the country by none of the usual ties, owing allegiance and service to a foreign government under orders from the Pope and corralled by the Jesuits. do you wish to know what the effect of popery in America would be once she populates all of its great cities? Look at the quote-unquote enlightened people of Spain, Roman Catholic Spain, of Roman Catholic Portugal, of Roman Catholic Italy and Ireland and South America and the native Indians of Canada. Enlightened? Just look at any Roman Catholic country in the world. Now, the author says, speaking of Canada, well, popery is the established religion of one province and is liberally assisted in all the others. And in that province where she has the greatest influence, the facts speak for themselves. What are the facts? On Thursday, October 22nd of 2009, evidence given to the Canadian Federal Standing Committee on Justice and Human Rights reveal that organized crime is the more rampant in Quebec than any other Canadian province. That Montreal, the largest city in the province of Quebec, originally called Villa Maria, which means City of Mary, is in fact an Italian mafia hub. Reader, there's something peculiar about Quebec. What is it? According to journalist Andre Noel of La Presse, for 25 years, Quebec stands apart from the rest of Canada for the same reasons that Sicily or the Vatican stands apart from the rest of Italy. And the mafia, it seems, opens and closes the doors of City Hall in Montreal. There was not long ago a headline in one of the city's newspapers, Le Devoir. It was entitled, Break the Omerta, Mafia at the Doors of City Hall. Testifying before the above-mentioned parliamentary committee, Mr. Daniel Pettit, a minister prime of Charlesbourg Haute St. Charles, Quebec, posed the following intriguing question to Dr. Margaret Shaw, a sociologist and criminologist from Quebec. Quote, across Canada in the 1950s, Montreal was considered an open city, a sin city, as they say. A cleanup was done. Afterwards, we had major mob problems. Then we had the Commission of Inquiry on Organized Crime. Then there was the biker wars. It's always Montreal, Quebec City. Quebec City, Montreal. You live in Montreal. Why has it been so big in Montreal for such a long time and we can't solve the problem? Can you explain that to me? Is there something in the water we don't know about? Unquote. I would opine to say that perhaps if Mr. Pettit could read this book and Codeword Barbelon 1, 2, he may find an answer to his conundrum. Corruption, prostitution, and the Hells Angels are the norm in Quebec. There is the Hells Angels of Quebec City, the Hells Angels of Montreal, the Hells Angels of Troy Rivieras, and last but not least, the Hells Angels nomads. And while law enforcement struggles to keep control, it is the Italian mafia who are the real umpires in Quebec. That the Catholic Church backs the Hells Angels is seen in the following. Each year, the Reverend Joseph Bassifus of St. George's Roman Catholic Lithuanian Parish, USA, with the acquiescence of the Vatican, blesses the motorcycles outside the Hells Angels clubhouse at the end of the East 67th Street. See church's website. Now, frankly, it wouldn't surprise me at all if one day it were to be proved conclusively that not only Hells Angels, but the Mafia have connections to the Godfather in Rome. Speaking of the Pope. At this stage, we pose the following interrogations of His Holiness. We pose the following interrogatories of His Holiness the Pope. Why have the popes been so silent about the mob? Why, as Dr. Paul L. Williams writes in his book, the Vatican exposed money, murder, and the mafia is the, quote, the Vatican Bank under the direct supervision of the Pope, who has no financial training, unquote. Why is the Pope the one and only stockholder? Why, unlike any other financial institution, is the Vatican Bank audited by neither internal nor outside agencies? Why is it not even the Vatican's ecclesiastical financial agencies can attest to the bank's assets and accounts? Why does the internal auditor of the Holy See have no knowledge of its operations? Unquote. Would His Holiness the Pope not agree that these are just the quote-unquote right kind of financial arrangements that suits the mob? Whoso readeth, let him understand, says the author. The mob belongs to the papacy. They peddle the vice in this country of every stripe. They claim that Protestantism has failed. The morals of this country is in the dumper because of all the pornography and prostitution and drug abuse and abusive television and abusive press and abusive entertainment. Sin, sin, sin from one end of the country to the next. But it's the Pope who peddles it all through his mob. That's how he justifies his divine right to conquer this land. The peddler of vice in this country is the Roman Catholic Church. All the better to keep the confessional box busy. All the better to gather information from one end of this country to the next about the moral status of this country so that the Pope can justify his agenda. Chapter 64 of the book is entitled Evangelicals and Catholics Together. The dog returns to his vomit. This is speaking about the ecumenical movement. And this is one of the most passionate subjects that I know of. This one really cuts my heart. The ecumenical movement. The dogs are returning to their vomit. The dogs are returning to that which they threw up. And they're going to eat it again. They're returning to Roman Catholicism. The author says, on February 14, 2008, St. Valentine's Day, a special meeting was held in the Palladium Theater, Rome. The subject of the meeting was the construction of a new building in the city of Rome to be called United Religion, a place where all the religions of the world can meet. According to Walter Veltroni, mayor of Rome, the two men who should preside over such united religious meetings are the Secretary General of the United Nations and the Pope. In this, reader, we see another ploy, a dominating strategy of the Roman Catholic Church, an ecumenical alliance with other religions, particularly those of Protestant denominations. Indeed, it was Sir Harold Butler of the Jesuit-controlled Council on Foreign Relations who said the merging of the nations will be, quote, the way toward a new world order, held together by a common faith, unquote. A common faith? Which one? The advocates of the New World Order, Obama included, will seek a merger of different faiths as well as of politics. Note, merger here means convergence of beliefs and goals, not that there will be just one religion. There's already a, quote, Parliament of the World Religions, unquote, and it gives the website where you can go and read about this Parliament of World Religions. And it says exactly how this merger of religions will be achieved and what that common faith would be, Sir Harold was somewhat coy to say. But we have the answer from other sources. Evidence of how the world's religions will be united comes from a number of sources. Consider the following. On December 4th, 2009, I received a press release with the subject line, Manhattan Declaration. Perhaps millions being led toward the new age, new spirituality. The press release expressed concern about what it called the hidden agenda of the Manhattan Declaration, which declaration begins with these words, quote, "We are Orthodox, Catholic, and evangelical Christians who have united at this hour to reaffirm fundamental truths about justice and the common good, and to call upon our fellow citizens, believers and non-believers alike, to join us in defending them. We are seeking to build a movement, hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of Catholics, evangelical, and Eastern Orthodox Christians who will stand together," unquote. Notice, reader, the evangelicals and Catholic leaders are uniting at this hour. What is this hour? Notice, too, the phrase, the common good. What does that phrase mean? The phrase is a common Roman Catholic expression found in Rerum Novarum and other papal encyclicals. The former term, this hour, is a reference to the Pope's hour, their time to rule again. Pope Benedict XVI, in his 2009 encyclical entitled Caritas and Veritate, quoted from earlier, calls upon all people of goodwill. Thus, the Pope is only addressing all those of goodwill and no one else. But who are these people of goodwill? Are they merely all men and women who have goodwill? That would make no sense, as one must have goodwill towards something in particular. We all don't have goodwill at the same things. I have goodwill, so to speak, I have no goodwill, says the author, so to speak, towards terrorists or Satanists. And surely we can take it as given that the Pope and his papacy have no goodwill toward quote-unquote heretics. So who are these people of goodwill? The answer may surprise you. In 1922, co-Mason and occultist Alice A. Bailey founded an organization called the Lucis Trust to teach and spread Luciferic methodologies and doctrines of the occult world. Under the leadership of Alice and her husband Foster Bailey, the Lucis Trust started a group called World Goodwill, now an official non-governmental organization within the United Nations. And that will give you just a hint where this discussion is going for Monday's broadcast here on Inquisition Update. The Pope speaks in occult terms. And how surprising is that, coming from the biblical and historical Antichrist? My pleasure hosting this week. We'll see you again next week here on Inquisition Update.